as good as we can be, all things considered, which in light of the topic of your most recent book is a heavily qualified statement, but we will get there. I should probably say up front a couple things. I have not fully read your book. I haven't had it long enough to do that. I have, however, used the time with your book as well as I can, and I have perused all the way across it, and I am blown away by what you appear to have done. I am looking forward to delving into it completely, and I am also looking
Nice.
forward to discussing the content of the book with you today, even though there will be things that I have missed in my perusing. In general, I have a kind of arm's length relationship with books that I'm often kind of reluctant to talk about because intellectuals tend to have a kind of reverence for books that causes them to cast suspicion on anyone who expresses doubt. But my sense is that as much as there is a lot of positivity obviously conveyed through books, there is also a downside to them, which is that when you have read a book, you take in the author's perspective, and it is often hard to restore your mind to the configuration it had before you did that. And so there's a downside. Um, with your book, I'm not worried about this because you do such a fantastic job of effectively documenting your own mindset and leading people through the things you want them to discover. So my sense is it is a very different kind of book, and although I haven't fully read it, I highly recommend that others do, and I'm sure I will be returning to it after I have read it.
Oh, thank you. And I think you and I share. I mean, we've come up as educators, and one of the sort of sacrosanct ethical commitments is the somewhat cliche teaching people how to think, not what to think. And so, not only is that a stake in the ground, which is the intention is to increase the quality of our discourse and our reflections and our decisions. But then there's also just what's going on right now, and pretty much anybody that I look up to and turn to in the fields of neuroscience, psychology, sociology, politics, climate, biology, the closer they are to experts, the less certain they are of anything. In general, just as an epistemological stance based on the humility of deep exposure to the complexities, nuances, and contradictions. And then we are, obviously, well, I wouldn't say obviously, we are perhaps and arguably in a world of increasing, intersecting, compounding, and conflicting exponential curves. So the mapping and modeling of that can only ever be provisional. And
Yes,
false certainty is probably our biggest bane right now.
I would agree. False certainty is a huge problem, and if I can see if I understand what you just said, because of the number of, let's say, dyadic relationships between concepts, which seems to be growing at an exponential rate, we are effectively rescuing what we think we know with the equivalent of epicycles, and we are, in some sense,
Like Ptolemaic, like the little loops in the loops.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we are, in effect, waiting for what will certainly be a radical simplification of what we understand. That, in effect, what we understand is becoming more complex because we are having to integrate more things with it. And when we can figure out where to stand to look at it, it will probably not be massively complex. It will be simpler and more intuitive. But having not found that place yet, um, we have to deal with skepticism with the complexity that we're forced to deal with, which, as you point out, results in people who see this problem being more cautious rather than more certain.